What does it mean to be a good Democrat these days? Well, that's a fascinating question to ask, and one that we're actually seeing play out in front of us with what's happening in New York City. Now, stay with me. Whether or not you're in the Big Apple, this will apply to you. Let's start back in kind of the beginning. Eric Adams. Eric Adams is current mayor of New York City. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York State, is reportedly seriously considering removing him as mayor. Very odd law they have in New York allows her to do such a thing. But let's rewind, like I said, and talk about how all this began. Eric Adams was elected in New York City as, look, whatever he is, I'm not an Eric Adams fan, he was elected as kind of the anti-Bill de Blasio. Remember Bill de Blasio, that big commie goober who just tore New York City to shreds? I personally, over de Blasio's time as mayor, went to New York. I always go to New York City. I have to go for work all the time. I watched New York just steadily just go down the longer de Blasio was there. Remember, the cops hated his guts. The cops really, really hated his guts. And so New York, this is a moderate selection for New York, picked Eric Adams, former NYPD cop, thought to be more pro-cop, but definitely he's not Bill de Blasio. Again, he's not my guy, but he's not Bill de Blasio. Eric Adams gets in there, does his thing. And then the Biden administration did, well, what horrible anti-American communists do. They not only opened up the border, they used your money to bring in as many foreign barbarians as humanly possible. And of course, originally, you'll remember this, originally they just tried to stash them in the reddest states or the border states. Hey, just leave them all in Texas. But to his credit, Greg Abbott really was the pioneer on this, and Ron DeSantis did it as well. They figured out, hey, we can just ask these people if they'd rather go somewhere else. And if they say yes, we can ship them there. They started shipping illegals into New York City. Well, cities are not the country. They can't print money. Cities, especially New York, since it's on a freaking island, have limited room, limited resources. And if you're a mayor of New York City, of any town, small town, big city, if you're Eric Adams, you want to do things during your time as mayor. You want to be remembered. You have that city budget. You want to figure out, I want to put in an ice rink here, the Eric Adams ice rink. They'll always remember me for that. I have no idea whether or not he wants an ice rink, but that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of way you think when you're the mayor. Except you're starting to have to house all these illegals. Starting to have to feed all these illegals. You're watching crime go through the roof, and not only are all these things happening, Eric Adams was elected in large part because the black community of New York City came out and supported his run for mayor. Well, like we've talked about many times before, it's not just the hotels. Where are they putting most of the illegals in these big cities, the Chicagos, the New Yorks? They're putting them in the black neighborhoods. Why? Because those are the poor neighborhoods. That's where you can stuff them in the gym, stuff them in the crappy school, have a good time. Long story short, Eric Adams starts to get chirped at out in public. Starts to get some pushback. Eric Adams decides, I'm not going to just hand over my reputation as mayor to the Biden administration just so they can burn down America. And it wasn't even, it was a little forceful, I guess, but it's not as if he was belligerent, started speaking out publicly.
The city is being destroyed by the migrant crisis.
This is in the lap of the President of the United States. The President and the White House has failed New York City on this issue.
Okay. Now, that's a call out for sure. It's not calling Joe Biden every name in the book. It said, hey, we failed New York City. You failed us on this issue. He understands that. Well, the Biden administration did something next, and it's very difficult to give them the benefit of the doubt. About 5 minutes after Eric Adams started speaking out, the Federal Bureau of Investigation descended on Eric Adams like a Mongolian horde. Immediately, we were told there were corruption charges. Corruption, they love saying that. And let me be perfectly clear about this. Maybe there were. I mean, he's a New York City politician. There probably were. I don't have any idea the validity of the charges. I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. But if you're the Biden administration and you already have a record of sending the FBI after your political opponents, you've raided Mar-a-Lago, you've arrested pro-lifers, you sent the counterterrorism division after school board moms because you wanted them to quiet down, you were hardly going to get the benefit of the doubt when the mayor of New York City complains about you publicly and then the FBI shows up at his doorstep. It looks political, probably was. Even if the charges are legit, it probably was political. But then Eric Adams, pretty crafty move. Eric Adams starts to read the tea leaves. Sure, the Biden administration's after him. Sure, the FBI's after him. But these poll numbers for Donald Trump are looking real good. Looks like Trump may be 47 after all, meaning may get another time in office. So Eric Adams reportedly goes and meets with Donald Trump, starts to speak kindly with Donald Trump, does a sit down with Tucker Carlson. Donald Trump does win the election, and Eric Adams is now best buddies with Tom Holman?
I came to New York City, I wasn't going to leave with nothing.
Right.
I did the last time, and I told him I'm not leaving until I got something. And we're back into Rikers, that's huge. But we got other things we're working on, so I'm hoping. And now I got him on the couch in front of millions of people. He can't back waving us now, right?
You are sitting today talking about the new alliance between ICE and Adams. So thank you very much for coming and
Thank
telling
you.
us the news.
Alliance was never severe.
And if he doesn't come through,
You're up early anyway.
if he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City.
Right.
And we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? So
I want ICE to deliver. And I want ICE to deliver. We're going to deliver for the safety of the people of this city.
So now they're chummy. And just like that, the charges have been dropped. Very clearly, a political decision has been made, a political alliance, an agreement, if you will. Donald Trump gets some ICE enforcement in a city overrun with illegals. Donald Trump gets a political ally in a city and state where he has a lot of very legitimate political axes to grind. Eric Adams gets to not go to prison, and we're all off nice and clean. Now, that's the backstory, but there's something Eric Adams came out and said about his interaction with the Biden administration that I thought was, and there was a throwaway line. It was a few weeks ago he said this, but I thought it was just so incredibly revealing. Here's what he said about it.
I spoke with the president himself. I spoke with the president first. Then the president came here to New York City. The governor and I sat down with the president. And I said, Mr. President, I'm not sure what they're telling you about this problem, but this is a terrible problem that's playing out on the ground, that we need to fix our border, and we need to just stop allowing people to come into the country with no destiny.
And so you tell the president and his aides this, and what do they say?
Basically, be a good Democrat, Eric.
Be a good Democrat?
That was the basic overall theme. One of his aides told me that, listen, this is like a gallstone. It'll pass.
It's like a gallstone, it'll pass.
Yes. It'll hurt now, but it'll pass.
Well, you pee it out then. Right. Why do you have to?
Well said.
Be a good Democrat. That actually brings me to my point. The Democrat Party will come back. They will. They will. It doesn't look like it right now, which we'll get to in a second, but eventually they will. But where are we as a country when being a good Democrat means you have to be okay with filling up the country with barbarians? Is that where we are as a country? Because if it's where we are, then we are in very, very serious trouble. Extremely serious trouble. In fact, look at Boston's police commissioner.
In the Boston Police Department has pretty defined rules set by the law, and we abide by the law here in the state. And we don't, enforce civil detainers regarding federal immigration law. It's defined here in the state, and that's just how it works.
Well, you've lined up the state. How do you navigate the difference between the state, the city of Boston, and Washington, D.C.?
And so I can't, it's hard enough to run the Boston Police Department. I could never fathom, running outside of that. So I do know this. Our officers are, abide by the laws here in the state, and certainly the city ordinance in the city of Boston. we don't have authority to enforce federal immigration law. And so from our perspective, and what we tell anyone who comes to visit our city, lives in our city, is that we don't care about your immigration status.
That, of course, would be a good Democrat. Where are we as a country when we have two major political parties, and in order to be in good standing with one of them, you have to believe in the open border importation of barbarians, rapists, and murderers? I know we're all excited right now. I'm excited right now. I'm excited about the Trump administration. I'm doing backflips about the things I've seen. I've never had a month where I've done this much smiling about politics in my entire 43 years on the planet. I'm happy. But I can't stop thinking about where we are as it pertains to the Democrat Party, because although I am not one and will never be one, the truth is, in order to continue for another 100 years, 500 years as a country, we have to have a Democrat Party that is not what it currently is. We can't do this thing every 4, 8, 12 years where we import 20 million barbarians and then continue on as a country. It won't work. We won't be able to deport fast enough. The Trump administration is not deporting fast enough. It's not humanly possible. So to be a good Democrat now means to hate your country. I hope that changes. And until that changes, I hope the American people recognize that and completely reject this party and burn it to ash. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.